You're listening to the Paranormal Peeps on the Darkcast Network. Come to the dark side of indie podcasts with the Darkcast Network.
We have cookies. Between the realm of the dead and the journeys of the living, join Josh, Jamie, and Elisa as they delve into the vast world of the paranormal and breathe life back into the history of the departed.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jamie.
And Elisa isn't with us today because she got so excited about our last episode, the Luska, that she grabbed a chicken tender and a pocket fisherman, and she is now fishing for the Luska in the Great Salt Lake.
She is, but instead of taking whole frozen pizza, she just bought a Costco-sized box of pizza pockets.
That'll get somewhere.
Yeah, Hot Pocket.
And now Luska pockets too. So we are going to talk today about something we have never touched on this episode, on this podcast yet.
Okay, do tell.
We are going to talk about aliens.
Okay.
And not like...
aliens.
And not Roswell.
Well, thank goodness for that.
Right? I think everybody knows Roswell. But we are going to actually talk about something that happened before Roswell.
That they claim happened before Roswell.
Yeah, they did. They claim. I'm guessing you're not a big UFO enthusiast.
You know, I'm not. Do I think that there are other living things out there beyond this planet? I do. I think it would be silly and very small-minded to think that we are it. That this is it.
Okay.
But I'm not big on aliens. I believe that there is something amongst out there among us like that. Yeah.
Makes sense.
It's just not a huge subject for me.
I get it. So for me, aliens have been more captivating for my lifetime than ghosts. I read my first UFO book when I was in third grade and did a book report on it.
Well, hopefully it was a good book report.
It was horrible. But, I got an A, so what it is, it doesn't really
Couldn't have been that horrible then.
It wasn't that horrible. So, Roswell, New Mexico happened on July 8th, 1947.
Right.
So this incident takes place 2,200 miles away in the Puget Sound of Washington State.
That's where I was born and raised. Well, raised part of the time.
Yeah.
But I was born in Washington State.
And we lived in the Puget Sound area for a little while.
We did.
And I had no idea this actually happened there.
Okay. You piqued my interest.
So on the afternoon of June 21st, 1947, Harold Dahl, his 15-year-old son, his dog, and two crew members were patrolling the waters looking for stray logs. So it was a very common practice at the time that these salvage companies would go out into the Puget Sound, capture these logs, and then sell them back to the loggers.
Yes.
So Dahl noticed something very strange in the sky that he had never seen before. 6 donut-shaped aircraft were flying about 2,000 feet above the water. I love how people can estimate heights of things.
I am so bad with that stuff. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah. You look up at a plane, you're like, yeah, that's high.
Going about 200 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like when it's coming in for landing, you're like, that's pretty close. And they're like, yeah, that's still 6,000 feet up. You're like, oh, all right, cool. 5 of the aircraft were circling around the 6th, which was stationary. Dahl noticed that the center craft was in some kind of trouble as it was losing altitude rapidly, while the other aircraft kind of stayed around it about 200 feet away. The center aircraft stopped almost directly overhead of his boat, about 500 feet. So, really, that's actually pretty dang close. That's right above your head.
Okay, so now these circles, these donuts, were they the size of actual donuts or a Cheerio, or what are we looking at here?
Yeah. So he noticed that, one, they had no motors or propellers, and they didn't make any sound.
Okay.
Each of the aircraft was 100 feet in diameter. That's big. The size of a good size or a large boat, with a 25-foot diameter hole in the center of the aircraft.
Okay.
So a big giant donut. Each aircraft had a shell that was like gold or silver in color, which the surface looked to be like burled metal or shined, kind of like a Buick dashboard. His words.
Okay, that's interesting.
Each of the aircraft appeared to have large 5 to 6 foot round portholes equally spaced around the donut's exterior.
Oh, is there peepholes?
Like giant peepholes, like windows, right? It's probably a luxury craft. They were just like on a luxury cruise around the galaxy. And the craft also appeared to have a dark, circular, continuous window on the bottom and the inside.
Is that where they beam me up?
I think it's where they will. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. He said, suddenly the center craft starts spewing what appeared to be thousands of newspapers from inside the center. He would later describe these newspapers as a white type of very light metal fluttering to the earth, most of them landing in the bay. Following the white metal was tons of hot black lava-like rock. Most of this landing in the water, splashing all around the ship. However, some of the falling rocks hit the wheelhouse of the boat, hit Dahl's son, causing him to be taken to the local Tacoma hospital once they got back to shore, striking his dog and killing it.
Oh, dude.
Which they buried at sea. And then during all of this chaos, Dahl and his crew managed to bring several pieces of the metal on board of the ship, and noted how hot these pieces were, and also several pieces of the black slag that had fallen as well.
Okay. So what becomes of this? What happens after they collect this stuff? Throw the dog over the bow.
Poor dog.
Poor dog. That's horrible.
That's horrible, yeah. Later, after they get back to shore, right, and assumingly after he takes his son to the hospital.
Well, I hope that would be at the top of the list.
Right? You would hope so. He didn't actually, in the stories that I read, he didn't actually say whether or not he went to the hospital first or not. I would just assume.
Let's just assume that that's what he did.
He was being a good parent.
That's
took
right.
His son to the hospital.
That's right.
So he told his supervisor, Fred Chrisman, what had happened out on the water. Fred, being the proper supervisor, reported the incident to his supervisor. In retelling of his story to Fred, Harold estimated about 20 tons of debris fell from the craft both into the water and onto the beach of Maury Island.
Okay, if this, what looked like newspaper, and it was these white thin sheets of metal.
Right, and then this black rock.
Okay, the rock I get, but the metal sound like come floating out like newspapers. I don't see it being a lot of weight to that.
I don't either. I think the black rock,
okay,
sure.
Right, it's rock, right? It's rock-like.
Yes,
okay.
Rock-like.
So how does he know?
That's a good question. I didn't actually, I couldn't find anything that talked about, that, how we could estimate 20 ton. The thing is I would estimate 20 ton to be, a dump truck full. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a dump truck doesn't hold 20 ton.
I don't know. Depends on the material, I think.
Yeah. But that's still, that's a lot of stuff falling from the sky.
Yeah. And how... If it was truly that much, how did only some of it hit just your wheelhouse? What about the rest of the boat? You mean to tell me it didn't hit any other part of that boat? Just up by the wheelhouse?
Just maybe it's a small boat. I don't know.
That's interesting still, though. If you're dumping estimated 20 ton of these rocks and stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot of rock.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
It doesn't.
then again, I wasn't there.
Right? This is well before we were born.
I know.
So the next day, January 22nd, Fred decides to go out to Maury Island to check out the beach. Which makes sense, you know. His boat captain says, hey, look, all this stuff fell on Maury Beach. Why don't you go check it out? So on the beach, he says he finds white and black material scattered all over the beach and picks up some for himself. While Fred is off to Maury Island, Harold Dahl is back at home, and at about 7 a.m., a nice, new-looking 1947 black sedan pulls into his driveway.
Here's trouble.
Yep. A man steps out wearing a black suit and appears to be about medium height.
Men in Black.
That's exactly what they describe it as. The man in black invited him to a breakfast cafe in the uptown part of Tacoma, to which Dahl accepted.
Okay, I would hope he said, who the hell are you, before he actually accepted.
Right? I find this very trusting. Here's a random stranger coming into my house. Hey, sir, would you like to come to breakfast with me?
Sure, why not? Let's go. I mean, back then...
Are you paying?
I mean, back then it was different.
It was.
Right, but I mean, still, you would ask the question, like, who are you?
Right?
What? You know, who? Yeah, I don't know.
So at breakfast, the man begins to relate the details of the experience that Harold had the previous day. The man made strong, not-so-veiled threats that Dale and his crew simply witnessed an event that should not have happened, and that if he loved his family and didn't want anything to happen to his general welfare, he would not discuss his experience.
Ooh, threats. Gonna have to buy me a lot more than breakfast.
Right?
What the heck?
Now, Dahl didn't take these threats seriously, and so he decided to discuss the previous day's events with other seamen down at the pier. Yeah, it's interesting because he obviously didn't believe this guy, but if someone came up to you and said, hey, don't ever discuss this thing that happened to you or I'm going to kill you.
And your family.
Would you go the very same day and go tell people?
No.
You might wait a few days at least.
But, I mean, it depends on the person, honestly. I mean, just like a lot of people don't put a lot of stock in, like, what we do.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, they're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Other people are like, oh, no way, I don't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
You know? So, depends on the person.
Yeah. So, a couple days after Dahl's visit from the Men in Black, which would put us June 24th, a man by the name of Kenneth Arnold, taking off from Chehalis en route to Yakima. It was a beautiful, crystal clear day. Shortly after taking off, not more 3 minutes or so, a bright flash of light caught his eye. He thought it was the reflection of the sun off the bottom of a P-51 Mustang or some other military aircraft.
Sure. Flash a light like that.
Yeah.
We've all seen things like that.
Yep. What he saw was anything but that. Over the north face of Mount Rainier were 9 strange aircraft flying north to south at approximately 9,500 feet. Now, I can get behind him estimating altitude now because he's in the air.
He's in the air, yeah.
He watched them for about 2.5 minutes and at first thought they were jet planes. However, he changed his mind when he watched them fly from Mount Rainier to Mount Adams at approximately 1,200 miles an hour.
Holy moly.
That is faster than anything at the time, and I still think it might be faster than anything we have today besides a shuttle.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
He noticed that the planes were flying very close to the mountains and that they had no tails, which is definitely weird because you need a tail to, go left and right.
Yep.
He watched them dipping and changing their course slightly, but keeping the same elevation and in formation, kind of similar to how geese fly. So that'll get a V.
Like a V formation.
Yep.
Yeah.
As the chain of aircraft approached Mount Rainier, he was able to see them clearly against the snow and estimated the chain of aircraft to be about 5 miles long, with the discs about 20 to 25 miles from Arnold at the same elevation, giving Arnold a great view of the aircraft.
So up close.
Yeah.
Pretty
fairly
close.
For the sky,
Yes.
that's closer than you want to be for most
Oh,
anything.
yeah, absolutely.
Especially if they're flying that fast. Because if I'm correct, Mount Adams is in northern Washington. And so, and Mount Rainier being kind of middle in the Cascade Mountains. So they must have flew between the two in matter of seconds, which is insane.
Yeah.
So, on July 4th, our Independence Day. Oh, wait.
It was all out war with the aliens. Oh, wait. That's a movie.
Yes, that's a movie. But how fitting that there were sightings of multiple of these craft. So U.S. Coast Guardman Frank Ryman of Seattle had a UFO sighting. He was off duty that day from his public relations job with the Coast Guard. He said he saw a shiny disc flying across the Seattle skies. Ryman rushed to his house in Lake City, Washington, and at the time, outside the Seattle city limits of King County. He grabbed his Speed Graphic press camera and field glasses and ran back outside. The 26-year-old told the Seattle PI, which I think is Post Inquisitor.
I have no idea.
The disc came over about 9,000 or 10,000 feet. It was a flashing, brilliant silver in the sun. The picture, he said, was taken while the disc was directly overhead using Super XX film and a 150 shutter speed. Now, you can find this picture online, and it's a blurry circle.
Well, look, yeah, most of these evident photos.
It's an orb in the sky.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
He said there was no noise, and he was watching as he was watching with his binoculars, he saw no engines, and he's positive there were no wings or fins in sight, and it was definitely not a plane. So
you would notice if it had no tail, no sound, no fins of any type.
Nothing.
You would notice.
Yeah.
I mean, that would stand out.
It would stand out because it's a circle, and you would know that shouldn't be flying.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is now you have 3 separate people within a short period of time, couple weeks of each other, seeing the same thing.
Yes.
So on this same day, still July 4th, a flight is getting ready to take off from Boise. It's a DC-3 aircraft. On board, you have Captain E.J. Smith and First Officer Ralph Stevens. They're on United Airlines Flight 105. As they're flying, they notice 9 discs in loose formation. They had the wherewithal to call the stewardesses into the cockpit. Mm-hmm. The stewardesses all saw these discs flying in formation.
They call it in to see if there was any other aircraft reported in the area?
They never said.
See, typically that's kind of protocol anyways.
Well, it is now, but
Call the tower.
from my understanding, a lot of UFO sightings have happened from pilots and flight crew,
Sure.
and they don't report it because they're worried about
Being labeled.
being taken off of flights,
Yeah,
all
losing
of these
their
things.
job, all sorts of stuff.
But they said they watched it. They watched these aircraft fly for 10 minutes. So that's that's another 5 people
Yeah.
witnessing this stuff happening. So now we're up to 8 people. So we'll fast forward a little bit. There's lots of little things that have happened in this story. I'm going to just get to the good juicy parts because a lot of it is tedious.
Okay.
So if there is books written out here about this that you can find more on this whole entire story, but these are the highlighty parts. So at the end of the month, Captain Smith met with Kenneth Dale, Fred Chisholm, and Harold Dahl for breakfast at a cafe in the lower part of Tacoma.
Okay.
Afterwards, they went to a hotel to look over the metal that Dahl and Chisholm found earlier. So they said, All of the pieces of the dark lava-like substance were perfectly smooth on one side and slightly curved on the other side, and they kind of looked like they had been subjected to terrific heat. The metal or lava was extremely heavy, a little brass-colored. Even a small piece of this dark metal, about the size of a person's hand and about an inch thick, was a labor to lift with one hand.
Interesting.
So, I mean, is that 20 pounds, 30 pounds? Like, 5? I mean, how strong were they?
I don't know.
I mean, if I give a little child 5 pounds, it's going to be hard for them to pick it up. It was suggested that these fragments could have been the lining of some kind of power tube. When they lined up the pieces, following the curve of the smooth surface, they saw that they could have been a lining of a tube of some kind about 6 feet in diameter. So, I mean, you kind of do that, right? You grab stuff and you start putting it together, kind of like little puzzle pieces.
Sure.
Fred Chisholm handed Arnold a piece of the white metal. It was very light, but no more so than the ordinary aluminum, which certain sections of all large military aircraft are made of. If this was truly the light metal that Harold Dahl had said was spewed from the strange aircraft, we knew or thought we knew that it was a fake. We had seen hundreds of piles of this stuff in salvage dumps where Army surplus bombers have been junked. So it's kind of like the first thoughts of maybe this isn't what it's supposed to be.
Right.
Although, there was one very strange thing about this metal.
Do tell.
They could see that there were plainly two parts that were riveted together. However, the rivets were not round, which is very common. It's a round rivet that is put into things. Even today, we use round rivets.
Yeah.
But these were square and long.
Oh, that is different.
He's like, I've never seen this type of rivet used in aircraft we manufacture. This piece of metal did not correspond with Harold Dahl's original description of the extremely light metal. So Arnold figured out, he's like, you know what? We should get the military intelligence involved. Because if this is a fake, if this is false, obviously the military is going to know what's going on.
Well, or they're just going to come and threaten you.
Right? Who says the men in black were not?
Well, I mean, I think they're kind of all connected if you think about it.
Right?
Yeah.
So Arnold called Lieutenant Frank Brown from the 4th Air Force, which was in Hamilton Field, California. Oddly, Lieutenant Brown refused to take his collect call. I mean, people don't know about this about calling collect anymore. But it was a thing back in the day. If you didn't want to pay for the long distance charges, you could charge them to the receiver.
Yep, you sure could. Kids today don't even know what that is.
No.
Like, you say collect call, they'll be like, huh? What is that? What's that mean?
Yeah, you use this thing called a pay phone.
What? What's that? We're old.
But Frank Brown said he would just call back immediately from an off-base telephone. So Arnold calls him on base, and he's like, I'll call you back when I'm off base. And then he said that Lieutenant Brown had a distinct and slow southern drawl. So upon returning of the phone call, Arnold informed Lieutenant Brown that he was inquiring into the story of a sighting at Maury Island and that he felt Arnold nor Smith were capable of discerning the truth or a hoax. So it's like, hey, I don't know if these guys are telling the truth or lying. And so why don't you come out here and tell us? Help us out, right?
Right. So,
like all good military men at the time, they hopped on a B-25. Him, First Lieutenant Frank Brown, and Captain William Davidson arrived at the hotel. They flew up from California on a B-25 bomber.
Fun.
I know, right? So this is some important information about the bomber. It just had 2 new engines installed and reported to be in fine working condition. When the plane landed, it was serviced with 200 gallons of fuel, and a Sergeant Woodrow Matthews, who was going to fly back with them to California, He inspected the exterior of the plane, including checking all of the exhaust stacks.
Which is standard procedure.
Right. So when Captain Davidson and Lieutenant Frank Brown met these guys at the hotel, Crimson handed Davidson and Brown some of the fragments that were lying on the pile. Some of the fragments that were lying on the pile on the floor. There were about 25, 30 pieces there. When they offered them the pieces to take with them, they weren't interested. Neither did they seem enthusiastic about the box of fragments Fred Grisham had gone to get. So it's like, here's all this good stuff, all the stuff we found, and they're like, whatever. It seems...
That's weird.
Yes.
That's really odd.
It is odd.
Unless they're like downplaying it, or...
They could be. They could be just downplaying the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So, near midnight, about 4 or 5 hours later, Grissom told Brown and Davidson... What are you pointing at?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. So near midnight, Chrisman told Brown and Davidson that he would go home and get a box of the fragments. It would bring them down immediately so they could take them to Hamilton Field. Smith stated to the FBI that Brown asked Smith in confidence to take a look at the fragments when they visit Maury Island, and he would contact him the next day to see what he thought. If it was of interest, they would return immediately. This request might have explained why Davidson and Brown were not very interested in returning to Hamilton Base with the slag fragments. But just as an Army command car pulled up in front of the hotel, Frank Grissom arrives back. He started taking a large Kellogg's cornflakes box out of his trunk of his car. We assumed it was the fragments. Arnold helped Grissom unload this box from the trunk of the command car and put it in. Arnold could see the top of the box, or the flap, open. Inside the box were a great number of large chunks of material that looked similar to the fragments we had in our room. However, they looked more rocky and less metallic. All of the pieces I could see were much thicker than any of the pieces we saw in our room.
So how would this guy have...
Different pieces?
Yes.
Good question.
That tells me that he's aware of what these are.
Yep.
He has his own. So why would he be interested in yours?
Remember, they collected their own, right?
Yeah.
So the next day, Captain Davidson and First Lieutenant Brown, they left the hotel and they go back to the Air Force Base in California. Now, on the plane were Technical Sergeant Woodrow Matthews. Elmer Taft also joined them. Now, these are all little important details. So after takeoff, so they took off at 2:12 a.m. early in the morning.
Yeah.
Approximately 25 minutes later, the left engine caught fire. The left wing came off.
What?
And the airplane crashed into the wooden area.
The wing came off.
Off.
Something fishy there.
Something fishy.
Especially when you did all the checks.
Yeah.
When you landed, you did all the procedures and refueled and...
all of those things. Mm-hmm. Wings just don't fall off of aircraft.
No, they don't.
So Kelso Patrolman John A. Walring saw the B-25 on fire and witnessed the crash. He said, I was on duty that morning, August 1st, 1947, and was cruising in my police car about 2:35 in Longview, Washington, when I looked up and saw airplane lights flying at approximately 21,000 feet. I noticed then it caught on fire, again engulfing the whole airplane. It appeared then the pilot pulled the airplane up and seemed to go into a spin and lost altitude. The airplane came out of the spin and started to corkscrew down, crashed straight into the ground.
Nose down, yeah.
When the airplane when the airplane pulled out of the first spin, he seemed to hold the aircraft down to gain speed so others could get out. As he was pulling out of the dive, the airplane rolled. The red light was visible above the flames at all times, circling in a wide arc. The airplane was about 8,000 or 9,000 feet when he started to corkscrew out of control. I've experienced as a civilian pilot, and I've seen a Corsair and a B-26 crash and a B-25 in the Marshall Islands. All three of these accidents occurred at night. So he's just saying that I've seen this before. I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
It's in this opinion, the accident aboard, that an exhaust stack either burned or fell off, exhausting flame into the engine cowling, creating the engine fire. The exhaust stacks that were inspected after landing.
Okay, so a couple of things.
Yep.
Either the person or persons inspecting it did a half-assed job.
Always possible.
Always possible. Human error, right?
Yep.
Or something more nefarious went on.
Yes.
Sabotage.
So Sergeant Matthews says, after leveling off at 10,000 feet on course, sparks started flying over the bomb bay and believed the source to be a junction box in the main hydraulic reservoir in the bomb bay. Immediately thereafter, the pilot called the engineer's attention to the left engine, which was on fire. According to the flight engineer's statement, flames were first seen emitting from the power section on the onboard side of the left engine. The fire extinguisher to the left of the engine was operated, and the mixture controlled, and the fuel shut-off valves were cut off. So the fire was next observed burning through the cowling flaps. Upon receiving the pilot's orders to abandon the aircraft, the flight engineer secured all the chutes for the crew, helped the pilot, co-pilot, passenger fasten their chutes to their harnesses, then followed the passengers out of the aircraft.
Wow.
The people who died in the aircraft were the captain and the co-pilot. The pilot and the co-pilot did die in the crash.
That's sad.
And reportedly having that box of materials on board.
Reportedly.
So they took that Kellogg box of rocks, put it on the plane, and then shortly after takeoff, the plane burns up and falls to the ground.
So what are we thinking here? Are we thinking that material caused issues, or it was sabotage? What are we thinking?
See, that's the hard...
This could go different ways.
Yeah. And that's where it gets strange. Right?
Oh, that's where it gets strange.
It's already been strange.
It's already strange, but it gets stranger.
So Arnold said he thought the plane crash and the 2 lives lost were directly connected to the Maury Island sighting. So Palmer warned Arnold and Smith not to carry any of the additional fragments on board his plane, and suggested that if they wanted to keep any, to mail them to themselves. So put them on a different plane.
Just put them on a different plane. Yeah, that's... I don't know.
He advised him to prevent Smith from taking any fragments. Smith, standing by and listening, got the impression that the editor was no longer interested in hearing anything about this story that happened. So, like, all of a sudden the editor of the newspaper is like, no, I don't want any of this now.
Maybe because he was worried that he'd get some backlash for it. Threats.
It's very possible.
He'd wind up dead. His family.
Yeah.
You know? Because why would you all of a sudden be like, no, I don't want to do this anymore?
It's very strange, right? Mm-hmm. What's even weirder is they're all sitting in this hotel having this conversation, right? The same hotel. They get a phone call from somebody. They don't know who the person was from, right? And they were asking about the crash and confirming that it happened.
Okay.
And so the Palmer said he recognized the voice as someone who had called him long distance on several occasions from all over the country concerning the Maury Island incident.
Suspicious.
Exactly. So he got a phone call. So Smith gets a phone call from Ted Morrell. Ted Morrell's like, you'll change your tune when you hear this. I had another anonymous phone calls. He said that he had proof that the B-25 had been followed shortly after takeoff from McCord and was downed by a 20-millimeter cannon. He also said that both you and the private flyer, Arnold, had similar attacks, but both missed somehow. Also, that on January 26th crash, which he said, remember Grace Moore and some Crown Prince Gustav Adolf of Sweden, second in line of the Swedish throne, and May 29th at the one at LaGuardia were done the same way. So these were hits on people.
Yeah, they're being taken out one by one. Messed up.
Yeah. And that is this strange and crazy story of the Maury Island incident.
It's amazing. I don't know. It's just amazing what people in seats of power will do to benefit themselves or to keep dirty things hidden or whatever, right?
Do you believe it, though? Do you believe this story is true?
You know, I believe there's a lot of truth to it.
Is it because there's so many different witnesses to different events?
I don't know.
Okay.
It's just an overall feeling that you get sometimes.
Yeah.
Now, I don't like the whole alien thing at all. I really don't. But, yeah, I do believe that a lot of that is probably very factual.
What's interesting is not that long ago, I think it was 2009 or 2019, the Senate in Washington actually referenced the Maury Island incident as being true.
Yeah.
In official congressional memo.
Yeah.
Which is interesting when you think about it, because you don't generally see this stuff. I mean, now that the FBI and the CIA have started releasing UFO docs and stuff like that, more has come out.
Yeah, of course. But typically the only reason that our government and people of, that are in seats of power give the thumbs up and release this stuff is usually to distract us from some other BS that they're doing over here. Look, I'm doing this over here, but don't pay attention to this. Here, we're going to throw this out. It's going to be all sparkly and flashy, and everybody's going to be talking about it, and this is where your focus is going to be. And in the meantime, we can do this cruddy stuff over here.
Starting to wonder if your last name isn't Mulder.
Yeah, well, you have to admit there's a lot of crap that's going on in the world today, and a lot of powerful people are behind it.
Sure.
For their own gain, their own benefit. They want, they're power hungry. I believe in monsters, and they've been proven to exist because they're human.
Yes.
Man. Monsters.
And that's the thing is these sightings, these UFO sightings, these things that have been seen, right? It's not like there's incidences all over the world that these have been seen, and and not by one people, two people. Sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 100, sometimes it's 1,000. Like these things have been seen.
Yeah. This
just ends up being actually the first recorded one. The other thing that's interesting is when that plane crashed. That B-25, the B-25 bomber crashed, that was actually the very first U.S. Air Force plane crash.
Really?
So before...
The first or the first...
No, the first
recorded?
Ever. First ever.
Okay.
Because before that time, the Air Force was actually part of the Army Air Corps.
Oh,
so
gotcha.
They didn't actually exist. So after they became the Air Force, this is their first actual crash.
Okay.
So you got to wonder, too, is any of this stuff just cover up for that crash? I mean, are they just not saying as much about the crash because they don't want weird conspiracy to come out about what they were doing up in Tacoma?
Or they don't want the truth to come out. Or they don't want people to go down those rabbit holes and dig that deep.
To me, it's surprising because this is before Roswell. This is days before Roswell. Months, actually a month or so before Roswell, because Roswell was July 8th. So before Roswell, they get a call about weird spacecraft flying in the sky. The intelligence office does. And what do? They send people immediately that day. That's weird. How do you get the military to do anything in less than a day?
Good question. I don't know.
So there has to be some part of truth to it.
I think there's a lot of truth.
Even though Dahl did say later, he did recant his story and said it was all a lie. But is he saying it's a lie because it's a lie? Or is he saying it's a lie because he's trying to protect his butt?
We'll never know.
No. No, we are not going to know because I'm even pretty sure they are not around anymore.
I pretty much just wash my hands of all this stuff. Like, yeah, okay, I like doing, when we do the research and we do the podcasts and stuff, and it's interesting and stuff, and I have my own theories, but that's about as far as I go with it.
Yeah.
I just don't put a lot of stock into these things. Not that there isn't truth there. Not that I don't believe things. I just don't get that consumed by it. It could drive you nuts if you do.
It really can. There are so many rabbit holes you can go down
with so many
with
things.
all of these things.
Yeah, and so I just try to hey, I have my opinion, but that's about as far as I'll take it.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts, listeners? Do you guys think that these alien craft were spotted and dropped 20 tons of material into the Puget Sound in Washington State? Or do you think it was more of an elaborate hoax of someone who just kind of wanted to be more than he was?
Pretty elaborate for a hoax.
Very elaborate.
Especially back in that time.
Right?
So, yeah.
But if you guys like the stories of the ghosts, the spookies, cryptids, and now aliens, please like and subscribe to us on all of the platforms, YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, stay ghosty, my peeps.
Are you drawn to the dark? Do you find yourself enticed in the forbidden and ominous? Join me, Steph, as I explore all things menacing and malevolent in my podcast, Sinister Story Hour. I discuss true stories of cults and crimes, with the occasional urban legend. I also dedicate episodes to missing persons in the United States. And you could be the missing link to provide information and clues that will help to bring them home. Join me every week for a new story. Come on in, sit down, and get ready, because it's story time.
Chelsea. Oh my gosh, I'm going to lose my Washington card. He was taking off from Chehalis en route to Yakima. Thank you for listening to the Paranormal Peeps podcast. You can find us on social media at Twitter at CPR Paranormal, on Facebook at Paranormal Peeps Podcast, and Cold Spot Paranormal Research. And you can find us on Instagram at coldspot_paranormal_research.